Hey YouTube, what's going on? Son of Sanguinius here, and today we're going to be continuing our Blood Angels tactics videos with a look at the Land Speeder Squadron. So it comes in at 50 points. It is Ballistic Skill 4, Front, Side, and Rear Armor 10, and it has 2 hull points. For War Gear, it has a heavy bolter, and for Special Rules, it has Deep Strike. For options here, the squadron may include up to 2 additional land speeders at 50 points per model. Any land speeder may replace its heavy bolter with one of the following: a heavy flamer for free, or a multi-melta for 10 points. And any land speeder may take one of the following: heavy bolter for 10 points, heavy flamer for 10 points, multi-melta for 20 points, typhoon missile launcher for 25 points, and an assault cannon for 30 points. So, taking a look at the land speeder. It's really good in 2 separate ways. For one, it can fulfill both anti-armor roles and anti-infantry roles. If you wanted to go, anti-infantry, you can of course stick with the heavy bolter. But if you really want to get up close, you may consider a heavy flamer. Obviously, the assault cannon there is definitely good, and the Typhoon missile launcher can be used in sort of both ways. If you want to go sort of like an anti-armor build, obviously the multi-melta and the Typhoon missile launcher would probably be the way to go. So the way I sort of see land speeders, honestly, I would kind of like to keep them in Deep Strike Reserve, and just sort of utilize them as sort of like a hard-hitting, fast-moving support unit. And you sort of the way I sort of see it is you keep them in reserve, and let's say you have a tactical squad and it's taking too much fire from either an enemy, another enemy unit. Perhaps it's a vehicle, something like a Razorback or something that's firing shots into them. Maybe it's something like a Lehman Russ or something that's laying down some heavy, some large blast, high strength, low AP shots that are really causing you some problems. What I like to do is, deploy land speeders in such a way that they are able to support whatever units are sort of taking the most heat, and basically use them to sort of take the heat off of said units. So, utilizing them this way, I realize that not a lot of people, like to rely on deep strike simply because it's unreliable. However, being Blood Angels, we have ways of manipulating that. Things like Descent of Angels. There may be some things in Angel's Blade, although I think the main deep striking stuff is mainly for the Archangel's Demi Company, and that will certainly have its own video in the future. So if you don't want to use them as sort of like a deep striking support unit, you could also use them as kind of like a flanking force, similar to how like a lot of people like to use bikes and send them on the flanks of the table to go out and get objectives, or just as a way to sort of flank your opponent and provide another firing lane. You can certainly use them in a similar way, and because they're skimmers, they can sort of pass over terrain and not have to worry about dangerous terrain and everything like bikes would. So all that being said, it's important to keep in mind a couple of things, with land speeders. The first one is you're going to have to, deploy and use them wisely, and I say that because, even though there's skimmers and they can jink, they're only front, side, and rear armor 10, and they only have 2 hull points each. This means that sheer volume of shots will be able to take them out. Even a whole bunch of bolter fire is likely to bring down a land speeder. You really have to be careful about the way that you apply these units, simply because they work as kind of like a glass cannon. They can certainly dish out a lot of firepower, and that's mainly why they're useful. But they sort of trade off their protection for that nice mobility. So when you do use them, make sure to utilize cover and prioritize your targets. Obviously, you can jink when you need to try and keep the unit alive, but honestly, when you jink with a unit like this, you're really sort of hampering its effectiveness. So it'd really be best, to try not to jink at all. But of course, we know that in the game of 40K, nothing really goes as planned. So again, just make sure that you either tuck them behind buildings or tuck them in between, some walls or maybe some hills. Just something that way you can just sort of mitigate line of sight to these guys whenever possible. So that's just about all I got on land speeder squadrons. The last thing to mention is in Angel's Blade, they basically give us the anti-grav upwash, which one of you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it means that when a land speeder squadron has 3 units or 3 models in the squadron rather, when they flat out, they can move an additional 6 inches. So there's that. But overall, I think the land speeder squadrons are an excellent support unit. Whether you gear them toward anti-infantry or anti-armor, just make sure that that they don't take too much fire, because as I said before, they are sort of like glass cannons in that regular bolter fire, volume of dice, and considering the prevalence of low AP, high strength weapons out there, these guys can be torn to shreds if they're not applied carefully. So, anyway, feel free to leave your comments down below. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.